This is a kukui tree that we needed to cut down because of infestation of the Queensland Longhorn Beetle. Apparently, trees that are weak and sick emit a sound that the insects can hear, and they're attracted to it. And you can see in this section the holes where the beetle emerged from the trunk after living its life cycle as a grub inside the tree. Currently, the only treatment that is recommended when there's an infestation is to cut the tree down and burn the wood. We're interested in trying some other approaches because there are many trees in the forest all around us that the beetle enjoys eating. So even if we cut down all of our fruit trees, it would still be coming in from the forest. We need to find some way to kill it in the trees that it's infesting.
Okay, well, hello, I'm Michael, and I'm working on ways of getting rid of the Queensland Longhorn Beetle grubs when they're still in the grub stage. So to do that, I got some of this mycotrol, which is a powder form of the Bavaria bassiana fungus, which kills a wide range of insects. I've used it over in Kona to control the coffee berry borer, so I figured maybe it'll work on the Queensland borer. Now the trick is, how do you get the fungus inside the tree? This is a powder, and so it occurred to me to mix the powder with some kind of a mud material and then inject the mud into the tree, which would block the tunnels, and when the grubs move through the tunnels, they'll be exposed to the fungus and they should then get infected and die. So we don't have any mud around here. We're in Puna. We have cinder. So where do you find mud? Well, you go to Home Depot and get a bucket of mud. This is drywall joint compound, which is a very effective mud-like material, and it's expensive. A whole bucket is only about $22. And so I can mix the mud with the fungus and together inject that into the tree. And we got a 60 milliliter syringe, which I can then use, which I can put the mud in there and then inject it into the tree as far as I can to fill the tunnels with mud as much as possible. Now, I have no idea how much to use. This is all brand new experimentation. I don't know how much fungus to mix with how much mud. So we just try something. So I'm going to mix up about a cup or so of the mud and add about a spoonful or so of the fungus and mix it together and inject that into the tree. And we've been doing that now for the last week and seeing a substantial reduction in the amount of frass coming out of one of our citrus trees. So there's about a cup of mud. I don't measure. This is not pure science, obviously. And then we'll put in some of the fungus. Anyway, again, not measuring. That's a spoonful or two. Now, once this is opened, this has to go back in the refrigerator. The spores are living spores and need to be kept cold. So we'll put that away later.
So the frass is the sawdust that comes out of the trunk?
Yes, yeah. The frass is little bits of wood that are pushed out from the tree as the grub tunnels. So I'm going to mix the fungus in with the mud. Try not to breathe this stuff. It's not toxic to animals or humans, but it could cause irritation if you breathe in this dust. So I probably should be wearing a mask right now, but I don't like masks. So mixing the fungus thoroughly into the mud, and only mix a small amount at a time, because the directions for this say when mixing it with water to spray on plants, it has to be used within 24 hours of mixing with water, because after that the spores die. So I'm not sure how long they would live in the mud, but we don't have any science on that. So I make about a day or 2 days supply at once. And now 1 spoonful of this has billions and billions of spores in it, so I don't think you have to use much. And I use the dry powder instead of the liquid because I want to keep the mud as thick as possible. So after injecting it into the tree, it should stay in the tree and not just leak out. The Bavaria is also available in a liquid form called Botanigard, but that's a liquid form. That's for mixing with water more. This goes right in to the mud. Now the mud is a little more tan in color, and now it's ready to go into the tree. So this is an old tangerine tree, maybe 40, 50 years old, definitely near the end of its life. And it was hit hard by the beetle. And when we discovered it, it already had about 10 exit holes in it. So there had been one whole generation had already lived in this tree. On this side and on the other side, there's even more damage. Come around the other side. So this tree already had about 10 exit holes in it, and it had about 25 sites that were actively pushing out frass. And so some of our people here thought we should cut this tree down and burn it. And I advocated for let's try to save it first. And so this tree has already been treated with the mud and Bavaria mixture about 5 times over the last week. I've applied it, and then here's a frass site. So this is still a grub here, and there's a grub here and here. So this still has maybe a dozen or so grubs in it, which is down from the 25 when we started. So I see progress being made here, but we're not done. It takes repeated applications of the mud mixture, ideally every day for a week or two, or until all the grubs are dead. Now what I do when I see that they're pushing out frass, I take this is a marking flag, which has a nice piece of wire in it, which is about the right size wire to push out to get rid of the frass. So I'll pull out the frass and I try to catch it, because sometimes the grub comes out when I do this. Then I can just smush it on the spot. But usually I don't get a grub. I'm just clearing the frass out and then turning the wire to kind of widen the hole, make the hole as wide as possible. Sometimes there's like dead wood or dying wood, soft wood, so I kind of widen out the hole as wide as I can and push in as far as I can. Now this only goes in about that far, and then it hits solid wood. So the grub in there apparently has turned. They go in and they turn one direction or the other, up or down. So I can't actually kill the grub doing this, but I can widen the hole and then put in some fresh mud. So we'll go through and visit all the frass sites that are still pushing out frass and clear all the frass out of the holes, widen them, and then I'll reapply the mud. And doing that over and over again, apparently, when the grub comes out, because the grubs can't breathe, right? We're basically sealing off all the air coming into the tree. So the grubs start noticing there's no air in here. So they have to come to the surface and push the mud out. And when they do that, they get the spores on their body, and then they will die within 5 to 10 days of that exposure, I believe. According to what I've read, Bavaria fungus kills insects in about 5 to 10 days. So I've been at this tree for about the last week. We'll just keep going, widening the holes and mudding the tree every day until the grubs are gone.
So you've been opening the frass holes, injecting it with mud,
Yeah.
and then recording how many holes are active each day and taking photos.
Right. Trying to document a reduction in the active frass sites over time. And so far, that does seem to be working. If there was about 6 or so frass sites at the bottom of the tree here, now I just see one. Well, the frass came down. Sometimes the frass kind of tumbles down the tree, so there's a little bit of frass. You kind of poke with the wire and see.
What's this? That looks like something pushed out.
Yeah, there's frass behind that. Yeah, there's a site. Good, that's a good eye. There was frass behind the mud there. So in a way, the frass protects the beetle from the mud, so that's why I have to clear out as much frass as I can, so that the beetle will actually contact the mud. Once the beetle touches the mud, then the spores penetrate through the skin, through the cuticle, and infect it. But it has to make direct contact. So any frass has to be removed to get out of the way. And that's just solid wood at that point. Anyway, there's some softwood there, so you can use the wire to remove any softwood too.
I also see one up here where the beetle has pushed out the mud.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's grass. Good, that's a good eye.
So you have to look for little mounds.
Yeah, any evidence of something pushing out from inside. There might still be a living beetle. Now that one goes in farther. See, in that case, the wire went in about 1.5 inches. So that's a deeper tunnel. But using the syringe, I should be able to push the mud in there.
And I see that you've also used the mud to seal wounds in the tree bark.
Yes, some of these marks, like this one, this was external feeding. There never was a grub there, but that's where the adult had cut into the tree, a little diamond-shaped gouge in the tree. So I mudded that also to protect the tree from subsequent infections. Some of this was just external feeding. So I covered all that up because the external feeding was oozing sap and it was attracting other insects like fruit flies and other bugs were attracted to the tree. So as the mud hardens, it protects the tree from other bugs that might take advantage of its weakened state. We've mixed the drywall mud with the Bavaria. We'll then transfer some of that into the syringe using a kitchen knife. Then I can get some in there and go like that. Not easy to get mud into a syringe, but here's one way to do it. Using a butter knife. And swatting mosquitoes. Mosquitoes must be in cahoots with the bug.
No.
So put the syringe mostly full and then put the plunger back in. And it works. Okay, now we're ready to fill. Fill the holes. There's one. So I'll put this as far in as it goes. And fill it with mud. And I use my finger to finish it off. I don't mind getting the fungus on my finger. It's just I'll wash it off later. Here's another one. And these holes are pretty shallow. They don't actually take a whole lot of mud. But that's that. It's important to dispense the mud fairly quickly because it will set up in the syringe and then it's kind of hard to get it out. You have to use use a paper clip or something to clear the tip. So this is a site where the adult beetle has been feeding on the surface of the tree, but there's no frass coming out, so that's only adult feeding sites. That's less critical, but I do put mud over that just to protect the tree from other insects that might lay their eggs on it. So that the mud has two purposes. It kills the grubs and it also protects the tree from wounds like that.
Another thing we did with this tree is we removed the moss that was growing on it. This was covered with thick moss, such as it is up here. And so we had to go and by hand take off all of that moss.
Hi, it's Michael again. Here's the famous tangerine tree, 2 months after I started treating it. This was the worst area here on this side of the tree. And the drywall mud Bavaria mixture has now has algae growing on it. But the spots where the frass was coming out are quiet. It took multiple treatments over the last 2 months. I'd come back and visit the tree every few days, and where I saw fresh frass, I would dig it out using the piece of wire and then apply fresh mud. And over over many applications, the bugs are gone. So it appears to be working. This area at the bottom was stubborn. They kept pushing out frass. I'd re-mud it, come back, more frass over and over again. But after a while, the grubs touch the mud and then they die. They seem to die about a week after making contact, roughly.
So it went down from like was it 28 holes?
25 or so holes at the beginning of the infestation.
Now there's like 3 left.
No, there's, yeah. Sometimes that little bit of frass is that I see it as their last dying activity, because they kind of push it out and they seem to die. Like there'll be something like this, a little bit of kind of mush comes out of the hole. Anyway, maybe a little frass at the very anyway, and then they kind of die, and then their dead body kind of oozes out. So
there's a little bit of one that still has frass.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they either came out there or maybe it dropped down from another hole. But that's, yeah, I don't think that's anything, because there's nothing behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But it did take many applications over these last 2 months, but we appear to have success. There was also some feeding up on some of his upper limbs. There was there, but
some external feeding from the adults.
Yeah, there's some of that. I was expecting to see more damage, but apparently the adults, because about 10 beetles did emerge from this tree last year. What happened to them, I don't know. We've been checking the surrounding trees because we're in an orchard of several dozen trees here. And I've been checking the other trees and I don't see any frass. So what happened to the 10 bugs that came out of this tree? I don't know. Maybe they have a predator. Maybe something got them, because we're not seeing fresh egg laying or fresh frass in the orchard.
Yeah,
So,
it's great.
So I call the drywall mud plus Bavaria seems to be effective. Just have to keep after it, reapply it every couple of days. Reapply it, because the bugs will push out frass. You have to then scoop out the frass and reapply the mud. But applying it over and over again, eventually they all die.
Excellent.
How about that? So the tangerine tree has been saved, at least for now.